Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we are going to talk about the OSR and my new understanding of the OSR, and an accepting of what DM James recently defined, because I think it was a very real, true fact about the OSR. He's communicating it, and I'm accepting that fact. So it's a fact shared by two people. I think we now live in a world where there are no more shared facts. There's so much partisanship that, like, shared facts is kind of gone. Yeah, it shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. I'm saying the way it is, not saying the way it should be. So basically, so first of all, linked below is DM James' fantastic breakdown of what is the OSR. And I really like this because I thought he did an amazing job of actually just, like, right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, like never before, the OSR is like, are we a thing? Are we real? Do we matter? Should we continue? And having a very open and honest conversation about the OSR overall, right? And trust and believe that that conversation is not happening over a D&D. Dungeons and Dragons knows it's a community, it knows what it's doing, and it knows how it's moving forward. And there are no, oh, do we even matter? Should we just disband now? Talks, right? And all of this is wonderful for me because I really dislike the OSR. Why do I dislike the OSR? Well, in my humble opinion, I'd like to say, and I think it's a thin line, I think the OSR is the greatest banner carrier for D&D hate that exists. Now, I'm gonna put a caveat on that. Maybe it's a little harsh to say that OSR is the best D&D hate banner carrier, or is the number one D&D hate banner carrier. That might be a little harsh. The word hate might there not. So that is, I really kind of think that it is that we have a situation where we see a lot of D&D hate from the OSR. That's why I dislike the OSR so much. I also really dislike that the OSR has some of the best dungeon masters in the world that is using them for the worst. It's like hiring a grandmaster in chess and having them empty the trash cans in your house. Like, it's the worst mismatch of talent ever, right? It's just like when I see a dungeon master, a dungeon master with 4 decades of Dungeons and Dragons experience running OSE, I want to pull my hair out. It's just, and wear sackcloth for the rest of the day. It's so bad. So where do we land with this OSR thing? So here's what he said. He said, what is the OSR? And the reason why I love this video so much is everybody was thinking about this, right? And what happened is a bunch of people went on and they talked about it with 4 different people, and it's 2 hours long, right? And I think, DM James did that. Like, he had a big, long discussion with other, but he took the time, he made notes, he sat his butt down, and he's like, this is what the OSR is, right? And it was very genuine, honest, and it was concise, right? And when I saw this, I was blown away. I was like, this is what we needed, right? And I think he nailed it. He said the OSR is best defined by what it's not, and I think that is 100% right? He hit the nail on the head. The OSR doesn't stand for a thing; it just stands against. Oh, and let me go back. I don't think so. I want to say, OSR is the number one banner carrier for D&D hate in the world. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say this: they are absolutely the number one banner carrier for D&D disdain. They disdain D&D. They have a lot of contempt for it, and they show it quite a bit of disrespect, in my opinion. And that's why I roll hard against the OSR, right? I just don't like it. And honestly, I'm hoping for it. I gave a very distinct attempt to bring people over from the OSR into D&D, and I think I'm kind of done with that. I'm ready for them to just disband and blow away in the wind. I don't want to see the OSR continue, in my opinion. And I think I'm going to get what I want, and for several reasons, because this conversation, like, the OSR is really saying, yeah, like, we don't stand for anything, we just stand against D&D, right? And they're not saying that. They're saying they are saying we don't stand for anything. A lot of them are, yeah, I want to keep this tight. I agree with him. The OSR doesn't stand for anything. The OSR is not defined by what it's for. It's defined by what it's against, and it is against D&D. And that's why I dislike it so much, and why at this point I have given up all attempts to bring OSR people into the D&D community, and I'm ready for them to dissipate. When I say dissipate, I mean quite literally, right? I think they are having a conversation right now. They're saying, is OSR even useful or meaningful, right? So that's going to help. And then the other thing is, and I'm not happy about this, but quite literally, the OSR is dying. Like it's just, the OSR is literally a bunch of old grognards who are dying, right? And I really dreamed of this day where we could have a few of them attached, bring them into Dungeons and Dragons now, and and have DM James run a Lego game of Dungeons and Dragons. That would have been, that's the dream. That'll never happen. He's never going to sit with, a bunch of young people and give all his Dungeons and Dragons wisdom. I think he'd rather die first than share, than take the time to learn the language and not be offensive and, show some tolerance, than give his dungeon mastering brilliance and all decades of experience to a young dungeon master so that could be carried forward into Dungeons and Dragons. And he'd rather, play 2D20 Conan. Sad. I loved his video. It was the best description of OSR that I have seen so far, and I totally agree with him. OSR does not stand for anything. They just stand against something, which is D&D, in my opinion. He said specifically, that's my takeaway of what he's saying. What he said literally is the OSR is best defined by what it's not. And I think that's admission that it really doesn't stand for a single thing in the world, right? It's kind of like, it's not a hate group, but it's definitely a disdain group. It was born from disdain, contempt, and just grumbling, literally grumbling. And if you think I'm wrong, the word grognard literally means to complain, an old complainer. There you go. And so for me, I'm going to choose not to be an old complainer with my life and try to connect and do, and everything I know, I want to port it down and make sure there's a community that carries it forward. I care if it lasts. And I think that's the other thing, is the OSR doesn't care if anything lasts. They're ready to watch it burn, right? And I'm not. I stand for something, and I want to build something. I don't want to tear something else down. That's my humble opinion. I'd love to hear yours. And go check out DM James' the best video on what is the OSR done with this current OSR thinky point where they're all like, should we even matter? The answer's no. Oh, that's my humble opinion. I would love to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.